Selea.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. When I thought about my podcast, especially about the chapter when it comes to autism, I was like, there's one person I want to bring, the hottest mama of Staten Island.
I don't know about that, but I love to hang out with you. So I'll take it any
so
day of the
sweet.
week.
So first of all, I wanted to say that when I came to Staten Island, I met you. I was in a really a place where I was like, oh my gosh, about Ari. I used to come to you and bug you. I'm like, listen, is this normal? Look at him. He's going to be like this. He's going to be like that. What's going to happen? To get this reinsurance. And I feel like you're that person that I see that there's no word for it in English. Mizamin.
Inviting.
Everything is calm and you do 100 things and you always look hot and you're always on the move. And you have 4 beautiful kids.
I do.
And when I met you, you have same situation like Leah Weissman.
Yeah.
That you had 2 kids, Sami, I know, and
Ellie.
And Ellie and Sami. And then you made Bobby, our gorgeous Bobby, that runs around after, runs your errands and take the girls wherever you say.
Yeah, he's mama number 2.
And he was single when you met him, and you have that spirit that everything works out for you. And that's why I wanted to bring you in.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that everything works out. We each have our challenges, but I think that who you surround yourself with is such an integral part in your success story. I try to make a very conscious effort to surround myself with people who are inspiring and uplifting. And that's why when you would come to me with all these questions, it was an honor to be able to be there for you and to hug you and tell you that it's going to be okay and answer your impossible questions. I don't really have answers because I was lucky enough to have that in my life.
When was the first time that you noticed something is different about Sami? Because we have the same thing. We have a girl.
Yeah.
And then right after that, they're very close in age.
Yeah, 18 months. So my firstborn, Ellie, was a very chill, great baby. Wasn't a crier, go with the flow. I was able to take her to any store all hours of the day, and she just kind of went with it. And then soon after, I had Sami, and he also was very easygoing. And so I didn't really think anything of it at first because Ellie had been the same way, very similar. And he progressed, I'd say, as most kids did, as Ellie did, and his peers in terms of crawling and talking and syllables, and then forming some words together.
Oh, really?
Letters together. Yeah, he did do that for the first year of his life. It was around probably 12 to 14 months that we started seeing a regression. And the words and sounds that he was using, he started using less and less. He wasn't using them as appropriately. And then it got to a point where he was he would take naps. And I remember it being natural for Ellie when she would take a nap, as easygoing as she was. She cried when she woke up to be taken out. She wanted to socialize, hang out. Who wants to lay in bed all day? I mean, I say that now at 42. I'd love to lay in bed, but
we must say that 12 o'clock at night, you do work out.
I do work out. That is true. But Sami would just lay there for hours, and you wouldn't even know if he was awake. He just had no part of him that needed to socialize or have that. It wasn't a natural craving or need for him. It was obviously very blatant in our face that we thought to do something. Yeah.
And how did you, when you heard that the first time?
I mean, it was a long time ago. I think my personality in general is a doer, right? So I'm a problem solver. I'm a checklist person. And so I think that my immediate reaction
was like a robot.
Right. Was like, okay, so what do we do next? What's step 2? What's step 3 and 4? And just go through that checklist. I didn't allow myself to kind of dwell in the diagnosis or what that meant. I think having a diagnosis at such a young age, there also came with that hope that
it's so early, we
yeah,
can change everything.
for sure. If I knew then what I know now and how he is, would I have been so optimistic? I don't know. I thought then that he'd be much further along than he is now.
And don't forget, it's also the age. Like when I heard you were like 20, 21. Sometimes it's like when you were 20, you don't think about getting pregnant. Oh, big deal. When you're 30, you're like, oh my gosh, this and this. And I feel like when I first of all, it never crossed my mind. I remember with Terry, she had a processing problem, and she became such a genius, and it all worked out. So like you said, in the beginning, I was like, okay, they thought about Terry that too. It's fine. It's going to be amazing.
Right.
But for me, it was very different. I feel like it's also a personality. Like I told Leah the other chapter we spoke about, there's certain people, like I see you or I see Leah, or I see certain people that I'm like, Hashem did it for them. Not that they can deal with that. No one can deal with that. But like when it happened to my friend Lital, or when it happened to me, I'm like, fuck no, you cannot do this to me. I can hardly be a mom. Like I didn't even want to be a mother. Like how can you do this to me? Like it's not for me. It's not for me. And we spoke about it with Jeff yesterday. Do you feel that? You feel like, why me?
I think that that's like a natural question that we ask ourselves when anything in our life doesn't go according to plan or how we envisioned it. I think in the same vein, we have to say, why not me? Right? As equal as we can say, why me? I think it's also fair to say, why not me? Can happen to anyone. And I was chosen. And I look at other families who struggle to take care of whatever they're going through, whether it's autism, whether it's divorce, whether it's abuse. And they struggle with really caring and taking care of the situation effectively. And I say, why me? Is because God knew that I possess a skill set that largely allows me to care for him. And that's why me, because if Sami were to be put in another household, maybe he wouldn't get the care. Maybe he wouldn't get the services. Maybe he wouldn't have the support and love. So that's why me, is because I was chosen as the messenger in this world to properly care for him. That's why me.
That's also like your personality. And I feel like that's also when certain things fall into place, because imagine this, like you had both kids and you knew already he's a special need kid when you met Bobby. And amazing, this guy, he just wants to come and raise him with you. And obviously, like for you, Sami is like, how do you say the apple of your eye? How do you say it in English? Like,
yeah,
it's like, this is your
it's one of my biggest missions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And it falls into places because you have that personality that accepted, מזמנת, זה כל הזמן אומרת המילה מזמן, because there's no like word for that. I felt like when Adas Brona, she told me the same thing that I told you, and I said it yesterday, that like you asked Neshama if she wants to come to the world and they choose us, and I said, I understand why Ari chose me. We take him to therapy 7 times a week, after school, OT, social skills, da-da-da. I feel like these kids we love so much. They are babies. Doesn't matter what, they are babies. Yeah. But I do think, like, why me? Like, why it had happened to me? But I will answer that. You have so many qualities that no one is like Leah Wasserman.
Well,
You're
I don't know about that, but
you juggle, you do workouts. And that's your superpower, and you got blessed more than anybody else in the world. And I feel, me too. I'm gonna tap myself on the shoulder and I'll say, I'm a good businesswoman. I'm funny. I have friends. I look good. I'm smart. Da 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 da.
And you're a searcher, right? You search for answers
all the time.
You ask questions
all the time.
You don't take things laying down.
I don't.
Correct. And that's why you. Because a child, any child for sure, but particularly one with special needs, someone needs someone who's gonna ask hard questions, who's not gonna take any answer as status quo, who's gonna search, who's gonna walk miles. That's why you. That's the answer.
It depends also on the day. Some days when Sami does something funny or they have a lot of sense of humor or whatever it is, and you're like, oh my God, the love that you have for those kids, you don't have for a regular child. And then there's the days that it's like
it sucks.
It's a roller coaster.
It sucks.
It's days that like, oh my gosh, well, I don't have a normal family and I go on a normal trip. And then he does something sweet and he baked pancakes this morning and he put it, and I was like, and I took a video on Instagram and I'm like, this is the best morning
I
ever.
saw that. That's beautiful.
And then it's a cycle of emotions. And then you call someone and you cry hysterically and you reach out for someone. That's the purpose of the podcast.
Yeah.
That someone's
so I'll see that life as a special needs mom, as a special needs family, not as a mom, a special needs family is always hard. And it always entails making exceptions and veering courses. I'll give you an example. A family member of mine messaged me a while back saying they're going to a water park. Do we want to join? And I know that my other children, Sophia and Zachary, would have loved to go with cousins and hang out. But Sami has a hard time in a water park. So the echo and the sound of the rushing water. And so we didn't go. And that sucks. Sami's 21, Zachary's 10, and Sophia's 5. Sami was having a little bit of a hard day. And my 5-year-old Sophia said something to me about Sami's brain working differently, which is how we've explained autism to her, for her to understand at her level, that he doesn't understand information the same way. I said to her, as Sami's sister, your job, as all brothers and sisters, is to take care of our family. And she said, but I'm only a little girl, which is so cute and obviously so true. But I do feel that it's important to kind of ingrain it in our children from the time that they're young, that this is what we do as family. We're there together for good times. We're there together for sucky times. We're there together to laugh, but we're also there together to cry. And at the end of the day, we're just there to hold each other up. That's our job as family. And if that means not going to a water park on a weekend that he's by us and he's not by his ex, then that's what we're going to do. Because if she wasn't feeling well and if she was sick at home with fever, I wouldn't go either. And that would be the exception that my other children would have to make because she wasn't feeling well. So we have to learn as family to navigate around each other's needs.
I feel like it's something smart that you say. Like sometimes I'm like, I feel like Terry, I don't want her to miss certain things. And then I decide like, okay, I'm going to leave Ari. If I bring him along, sometimes I'm like, why did I do that? And then if I leave him home and I spoke to you about it in Rosh Hashanah, that sometimes you're like, okay, he's just going to stay home and we're going to do. And I feel as a mom, you're already 20 years later, but I'm still in the part where like, I see like a little piece, I'm like, Ari would so enjoy it. And then just like, you forget what happens when he comes.
Right.
And it's a big, I'm still adjusting. If I bring him, I regret it. If I don't, like I always have guilt. Doesn't matter what situation I'm at.
Welcome to mom life. Yeah.
Especially with special needs kids. And I feel like I spoke to you and I said, how you weren't scared to have more kids after?
Petrified. And I talked about like having more kids and should we do gender selection? because statistically speaking, boys have
3 or 4
a higher
times.
likelihood than females, and it was a discussion. And I'm not ashamed to say that I was scared to have another child with autism. Sami was in public school for many years, but you have this in every school that there are siblings.
I know.
It's not uncommon for there to be more than one family member with autism, and so yeah, I was scared because, of course, I'm strong, or I try to be strong to be there for Sami, but having two would
just
test
destroy.
me, would test me twice as much. And we all have limits. And I just didn't want to have to reach that limit. And yeah, it was very scary. And
I
when
can't
got
imagine when you were pregnant.
and when I
like,
got pregnant and we did that sonogram, and I remember exactly where I was and exactly which doctor and
How you
exactly
felt.
my reaction. And he did the sonogram and he said it was a boy. I burst out crying, and it wasn't from happiness. I was petrified. Yeah. And those first 2 years, every day,
milestone.
every day would be like, is he still saying the same words? Is he progressing physically? OT, like it's scary. Yeah.
I feel like now when I'm thinking about having another child, it's also feeling a little bit like I tell myself, like, Ari's still young. I mean, he can it's something that I don't know where is it going to end. He can be ending in a hostel, or he can be ending having a job. Like, if you're asking me if he's going to get married, I don't know. But I see that even like very high functioning kids, it's very hard for them to get married. And like, you think about your daughter and you're like, 1 second, I want someone to carry that journey with her. Basically, bringing a child, and I spoke to you about it, I feel like I'm bringing a child with a shlichut. Who said he wants that? I'm literally bringing another child, and he has a destiny, and the destiny is to help, to take care of her brother. Is it fair?
I would venture to say then that's a question that you should ask any parent. I mean, even neurotypical, when you have all neurotypical children in the family, if you have 5 kids, should you not have a 6th? Because is it fair to the older 5 to now have to help bring diapers and babysit and whatever for the 6th? I mean, these are decisions that we make as parents. Our role is to be the leaders of the family and to try to make decisions that are best for the family as a whole, not for one individual person in the family. Sure, was there a part of me when I had Zachary and Sophia that felt like it's more people to love Sami and to look out for him? Yeah. Is that fair to them? I don't know. Would it have been fair to my oldest Ellie for everything to fall on her? That's not fair either. So it's easier to spread the care and love across multiple people. So I think anything is, you can look at it as, is it fair, is it not fair? It's a matter of perspective.
Like, let's say what happens in Israel, like you say to yourself, 1 second, there's hostages. Like, you're like, you have to go crazy, you have to kill, whatever. And then at the same time, we give back, we want the hostages back. And then if it's your own child, you're like, I don't care, fuck it, do whatever you need. I want my child back.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you're like, no, don't stop the הפסקת אש. Go there. So you're right. It's never fair. Life is not fair. That's what.
And life could be viewed as not fair, but you take the same situation, and I think it's just a matter of perspective. I think it would have been unfair for Ellie to be an only neurotypical child to care for him. And yeah, I guess my other kids can also feel it's unfair that they came into the world and now have this responsibility. My job is to try and teach them that we're a cohesive, loving family and that we're in this together. We're going to do this together. We're going to jump in, and that's just how we have to live life.
How do you feel that a special need child in general affects marriage life?
I mean, again, I think statistically speaking, there's a high divorce rate among special needs family, and I'm one of them because I did get divorced after, yes, but after the first 2. I would say that most people, when they are dating, particularly true for me, having dated when I was 17 and then got married at 18, that you lack the insight to have difficult conversations with your future spouse about what kind of household do we want to have? What kind of education do we want to for our children to have? What will we do if A, B, and C? You know, how far are you willing to go if A, B, and C happens to our family? You don't have those difficult conversations when you're 18 years old, when 19 or even 20 years old. And then life happens. And then you realize very quickly that your approach to a crisis is different than your spouse.
100%.
And I felt very strongly that I'm going all out for Sami. And that meant suing my school district, hiring an attorney, suing my school district for several years. That meant putting him in a private, that meant choosing ABA therapy, which I felt was right for us. I know it was controversial, but for us was right. I felt that was paying exorbitant amount of money to a private program.
That was your life mission.
That was it. My job was to jump on the early intervention bandwagon, and that's not always those are not conversations you have with the person you're dating at 18 years old. What would you do if A, B, and C? Are those the links that you would be willing to go to? And when you don't always see eye to eye, things can quickly deteriorate and fray.
You think that was a big factor of the divorce?
I think it didn't help. I think that we just got married very young. He was a great dad and loved his kids. I just think that we were worlds apart in terms of our approach to things, our philosophy in life, whether it was professionally. I think that we just were on two different pages, not wrong pages, just two different pages. And then you add in a special needs child and a special needs approach, and it was like
fire.
Yeah.
I feel like with Jeff, we spoke about it yesterday. I feel like me and Jeff, when it first happened with Ari, I'm very dramatic. I'm very dramatic.
What?
He goes, what? So he's like, when I came and I found out Ari was autistic, so everyone's like, there's high functioning, they're almost regular, and he felt like Rachel is say that word.
Yeah. She exaggerates.
Exaggerate. I can never.
Yeah.
אני מגזימה. And
you're being dramatic.
We were basically for a whole year and different mindsets. Jeff, his career picked up. He was so successful that year. And I lost so much weight. I literally ate 2 crackers a day, smoked cigarettes like a chimney. I was up all night. I was literally living on a couch. And I was in such a big grief. And I was all in, and it was Ari, and I wanted to get him to the best school and to do everything I can. And they made you feel like pressure, like now he's 2 and that's the age. And I was like living, dreaming. And it's not like he didn't care. Like he provided for it. He got him to the best school, but I felt like I'm alone. And also me and Jeff, I feel like I'm the lifting one. I called myself a medical clown. And whenever I'm not in a good mood, Jeff doesn't know how to deal with me.
Yeah.
Like it even feels like sometimes like he's not disgusted, but like I can't tolerate when you're depressed and I don't know what to do with you.
Right. Like he relies on you.
And he relies on me to pick him up. And whenever I get depressed, he's like, Rachel, I can hardly function. Don't get me down. If I come and say this, what's going to happen with Ari? It's like, because he's so emotional. By the way, he cried yesterday like a little girl, the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, Rachel, I can hardly function. I don't want to get there because if I'm going to go there, there's no one's going to function in the house.
Yeah. That must be a big pressure on you to feel like the peace in the household or the equilibrium in the household is largely dependent on how you're doing. Yeah.
So I feel like that's also, they say in the Torah, Isha bona Isha oeset, but I thank God to my friends and to you and people like that, there for you. They understand what you're going through. Let's say Leah, she's like, sometimes when I cry about Ari or these fears, she's like, Rachel, in the end of the day, I don't know what you're going through. It's a different future. So thank God I have friends that they are there for me.
Yeah. I want to just say in your defense, I think, not that I want to like get you down, but I think it's hard when your child is so young because you don't know exactly what to expect. And there are all these hopes and dreams. And as parents, we have the highest hopes and dreams for our child. So when those aren't met, it's devastating. I think Sami being 21 years old, we have a pretty good understanding of the trajectory that he's headed in. We understand what the future looks like at this point, right? Like, sure, will he change? Of course, we always change as humans, but within a step here, a step there when it comes to Sami. You with Ari being 3 years old, right?
Almost close to 4.
Close to 4. I think there's just such a big space of unknown.
And every day, like let's say we go somewhere one day and she's like, that was like a year ago, compared to what he is now, he's considered low functioning. Then I took him to, I feel like also the Jews are more strict when it comes to like, for them, high functioning is a regular child. And then I came to Friendly Face and the lady goes there, she's like, he's high functioning. And I always tell Jeff, I'm like, let's not get our hopes up and let's not get devastated because we spoke about it yesterday. Some days I'm like, oh my gosh, a genius. And then the next day I'm like, what is this? Or there is regression and your emotions go like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunity for parents of younger kids to just have that fluctuation of hope and then devastation, and that can happen within a moment, where 1 second they're doing something and you're like, oh my gosh, look. And then the next second they're, like getting naked and running around the house. It's just, I would encourage you to not be hard on yourself in getting down sometimes because you're amazing and you're loving and you're wonderful, but you're a human and more than that, you're a mom. And as moms, we feel things very, very deeply. I know you said that you didn't always want to be a mom, but clearly that was part of your destiny and you're kick-ass at it. It's okay for things to suck sometimes.
That's true.
Yeah.
You introduced me to this poem. You sent it to me one night when I was like crying myself to sleep. And Rivka read it on the first episode, and she read it so beautiful because she's that special Holland. Yeah. And I told myself that in the end of this chapter, there's no one better to read it out for us than you.
Well,
because you introduced me to that poem.
I did, and again, I don't take credit because anything I know about the special needs world is because I've surrounded myself with the people who can teach me about it. And this poem really redirects me when I'm feeling lost or when I feeling hopeless or I just can't do this. It just forces me to shift my perspective. You want me to read it?
Yes, of course.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. When is your chance to read it?
My English, to be honest, my English is going to be like reading, okay. And it's not going to be fluent. And like Rivka read it, and it was beautiful.
Okay. So it's not in particular about special needs, but certainly can be interpreted for the special needs world. So it's called Welcome to Holland, and it goes like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks and you make your wonderful plans. The Colosseum, the Michelangelo David, the gondolas in Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands. The stewardess comes in and says, "Welcome to Holland." Holland, you say? What do you mean Holland? I sign up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life, I've dreamed of going to Italy. But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland, and there you must stay. The important thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of pestilence, famine, and disease. It's just a different place. So you must go out and buy a new guidebooks, and you must learn a whole new language, and you will meet a whole new group of people you never have met, or you would have never met. It is just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy, but after you've been there for a while and you catch your breath, you look around and you begin to notice that Holland has windmills and Holland has tulips. Holland even has Rembrandts. But everyone you know is busy coming and going from Italy. And for the rest of your life, you will say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I had planned. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't get to Italy, you may never be free to enjoy the very special, the very lovely things about Holland. Yeah.
Every time I hear it, I'm like, it put me in tears, especially the part when you say, when you see people from Italy, you're like, yeah, that's where I was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one thing in saying this and wrapping up, I guess, is that as humans, we're flawed. That's just how we're created, right? We have anger, we have sadness, we feel depressed, we feel vengeful. Someone comes at us, we come back, we're defensive. I have to say that the one thing about Sami is that he has reached a level of perfection that I will forever strive to and forever fail at. He's achieved where he's supposed to be. And that's something to look at and to say, you know what? It's hard, but it's beautiful. And he's far more perfect than I ever will be. And so as neurotypical as I might be, and as much as we want our kids to be like us and had planned for that, sometimes the plans are that much greater.
Leah, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Rachel. I love you. And really, really grateful that our paths have crossed and that I now call you my friend. Yeah.
Love you.
Oh,
Mwah.
love you.
Thank you.